She was widowed twice, found love in Hollywood and peace in New York. When the cameras stopped rolling and the lights went out, we really have to ask, what really went on behind the scenes in Jackie Kennedy's life? The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 shocked the world, but the world would have been even more shocked if they had known what happened next. JFK's widow began an affair with his brother Robert. The Kennedys were known for passing women between each other, even from father to son, so it may have seemed practically normal to Robert. But how did Jackie Kennedy end up locking herself in hotel rooms with her married brother-in-law? It was more than a familiarity with each other or the grieving rebound of a widow. Robert understood Jackie's pain because it was his pain too. They both loved the man lost and could console each other in a way few other people on the planet possibly could. It wasn't a romantic whirlwind of a relationship, but an understanding of the other person and what they needed. Sadly, Jackie experienced a shocking loss for the second time when Robert was also assassinated on June 5, 1968.
Suddenly, everything that'd been a liability before.
After Robert's assassination, Jackie Kennedy saw a pattern beginning to emerge. She feared there was a plot against the family she'd married into and wondered how such a vendetta would play out against her children. Would she end up by their deathbed staring at yet another bullet wound seeping the life from a person she loved? Jackie reportedly began to wonder if America was safe for her family or if she should instead move overseas to protect them. And she also worried about her children growing up without a father. Ultimately, Jackie wanted more than protection for her children. She wanted a family. The Greek shipping magnate, Aristotle Onassis, wanted Jackie Kennedy long before John F. Kennedy died, but Robert Kennedy's assassination finally gave him his chance to pounce. Onassis was used to getting what he wanted, and Jackie was his desire. It was no secret. In fact, before his death, JFK had ordered the Secret Service to keep Onassis away from his wife. But to Jackie, Onassis was a rich and powerful man who could ensure her children's safety. The pair married in 1968, and she became Jackie Kennedy Onassis, better known to the press as Jackie O. What Jackie perhaps didn't know about her new husband was that he was a violent man with a desperate need for control. He kept tight reins on her, not allowing her to work and expecting the good wife he saw in the media. Jackie was a strong woman, but she also feared for her family without Onassis' protection. Less than 8 years after she remarried, though, Jackie found herself a widow again when Aristotle Onassis died of respiratory failure in 1975. Losing her husband meant losing the safety she'd married Onassis for. This time around, though, she took control. After settling with the Onassis family for a reported $26 million in exchange for not contesting her second husband's will, which had left all the money to his daughter, Jackie rejoined the workforce. Before she had married JFK and become First Lady, Jackie had been a journalist, and in 1975, she became an editor at Viking Press, New York City. That job ended in controversy 2 years later when Viking published a novel about a fictional plot to assassinate JFK's brother, Ted Kennedy. Though Jackie wasn't involved, critics blamed her for not preventing the book's publication, and she ultimately resigned her position. They didn't stop her, though. Instead, she took a job at Doubleday, eventually landing the role of senior editor. She helped over 100 books reach publication and worked until she died in 1994. After JFK's death, Jackie didn't let her tragic losses stop her from enjoying the arms of other lovers. One of the more enticing affairs was between her and actor Paul Newman. It was but a one-night stand amid her relationship with Robert Kennedy, and yet it continues to be the talk of gossip rags. What makes this affair so salacious isn't Jackie's involvement with Robert at the time, but Newman's dedication to his wife. Everyone saw Newman and Joanne Woodward as one of Hollywood's strongest couples. Jackie went from being the nation's first lady to the other woman in America's new sweetheart couple. Fortunately, Newman's marriage endured, and the one-night stand was seemingly swept under the rug. Photographer Ron Galella described following Jackie Kennedy around as one of the highlights of his career. But for the former First Lady, it was endless harassment that crossed the line into stalking. He'd stand outside her home, waiting to get a shot of her, following her and her kids. She was under his constant surveillance. Galella was much worse than the rest of the paparazzi obsessed with Jackie. He made his pursuit personal, crossing the line into stalker territory. The photographer referred to her as his girlfriend and described an encounter where she confronted him about his behavior. She'd go to Jersey for those hunts with the fox and the horses, and she felt that I had pursued her like I hunted her. She liked it. Galella stalked Jackie for years. In 1972, he was slapped with a restraining order. He was found guilty of violating the order no fewer than 4 times before he was threatened with a lengthy prison sentence. In 1981, in order to avoid jail time, Galella finally agreed to stop photographing Jackie, at last giving her some peace. Even during JFK's lifetime, Jackie struggled with depression and contemplated taking her own life after he sent her to a brutal psychiatric ward following a fight over his philandering. Following his death, it got worse, as according to friends, Jackie suffered lingering post-traumatic stress, experiencing flashbacks and intrusive unwanted thoughts. She turned to drugs and alcohol to cope. According to These Few Precious Days, the final year of Jack with Jackie, both the First Lady and the President took injections of amphetamines from a man dubbed Dr. Feelgood, despite warnings the doctor had driven past patients to mental breakdowns. Following his death, she consumed more. Her sister, Princess Lee Radziwill, ultimately intervened and threw out Jackie's drug supply after a suicidal episode. Eventually, Jackie went to therapy and stopped taking drugs altogether. Biographer J. Randy Taraborelli said, "She dealt with it head-on, and the drug use did not continue in her life after the late 60s. She just stopped. Pretty typical of the way Jackie would do such a thing. She just made up her mind, and then that was the end of it." After John F. Kennedy's death, gossip suggested that Jackie Kennedy's sister, Princess Lee Radziwill, was jealous of the attention her sister was getting. The rumor mill was run by Truman Capote, known in New York for the herd of socialites he collected, including Radziwill. And Capote was definitely Team Radziwill, saying, "She's all the looks, style, taste. Jackie never had them at all, and yet it was Lee who lived in the shadow of this super-something person." However, Radziwill denied any feud with Jackie and even kept a photo of the late John F. Kennedy by her bedside in support of her sister. She told People in 1976, "It's just the most ludicrous talk in the world that we're rivals. We're exceptionally close and always have been. We're together very often, in fact, endlessly." Magazines and newspapers covered Jackie Kennedy as if she were a movie star, the likes of Elizabeth Taylor. The two were constantly splashed across cover pages, one to sell a product or movie, the other as the former First Lady. But it wasn't their jobs the magazines contrasted. Instead, it was their images. The media portrayed Jackie as the quintessential good woman, perfectly poised, well-educated, and strong. She stood in support of her husband no matter his faults, demonstrating to women everywhere the right way to behave. In contrast, Taylor, who was divorced and married several times, was portrayed as having none of Jackie's virtues. Sadly, the feud wasn't just a media construct. It turns out there was some truth to it due to some very private issues between the two iconic women. Taylor's journals revealed Jackie harbored significant resentment against her because Jackie believed Taylor had seduced JFK, something Taylor denied but which other sources claim was true. It's well known that Jackie Kennedy broke her long-held silence with politicians to invite the Clintons to a gathering on her friend's yacht after Bill Clinton's presidential victory. What was less televised was the private luncheon Jackie held with Hillary Clinton after Bill's inauguration. Hillary later noted the conversation included some invaluable advice from Jackie on maintaining privacy in her family life.
I just wanted to say personally that every day this nation owes a great debt to Jacqueline Kennedy.
It's unclear, though, whether Jackie ever told Hillary about Bill's unwanted advances, as the new president reportedly tried to seduce Jackie at her New York home. And he didn't seem like the kind of guy who took rejection lightly. According to the book, Bill and Hillary, Jackie told a friend, "I was flattered that I turned him on so much at my age. but Bill was just like Jack in the sense that neither of them wanted to take no for an answer. Ever since that day, I prefer not to be alone in the same room with Bill. I fear he's a man who never gives up. After John F. Kennedy's death, Washington, D.C. no longer felt like home to Jackie, so she moved to New York City. Even during her marriage to Aristotle Onassis, she maintained her residence there. It seemed New York became her safe place, a haven where she could hide in the anonymity of the crowds. The spotlight was a significant burden for Jackie, making her love her small, one-window office at Doubleday, where her coworkers treated her like just another team member. New York became her home, where she could live and finally thrive, and she regularly became involved in efforts to preserve its architectural history. Sadly, in December 1993, she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Just a few months later, she passed away at the age of 64, tucked safely away at her private home and sanctuary in New York, surrounded by her loved ones, safe finally from the grueling celebrity spotlight.